Alberta independence update for today. It should be an action-packed video. Let's go.
Jeffrey Rath spent this week shaking hands with fellow Alberta separatists at a...
By the way, take a look at this headline. I mean, I think a little ambiguous. I mean, I don't want to stand up for David Eby because his statement was so insane, but I think he was just talking about the people that went to the U.S.
Calgary rally, but he's also been busy traveling to the U.S. Capitol to court support and money from the Trump administration.
Whether that facility would be available on a going forward basis, and whether it's with U.S. Treasury or Goldman Sachs or J.P. Morgan through a bond issue or whatever, we're looking at all of the options.
The lawyer for State Free Alberta says he's had several discussions last year with U.S. State Department officials that include doing a feasibility study on whether to ask for a $500 billion credit facility from them in the event of a successful independence referendum. BC Premier David Eby had harsh words for the idea.
To go to a foreign country and to ask for assistance in breaking up Canada, there's an old-fashioned word for that, and that word is treason.
But back in the day, the Quebec separatists actually also met with Americans. We'll take a look at that right now. Quick favor to ask though, please, if you're not subscribed, click the subscribe button. I need 1,000 to start getting paid, so please subscribe. So here is Chantal Hebert, I believe her name is, with Rosemary Barton. This is quite the clip.
Then there is the Alberta things. I should say, because I covered a previous referendum, that the U.S. back then did have conversations with people from the Parti Québécois and the sovereigntist movement to inform their analysis of what was happening.
Of course, just the act of meeting with Americans is not that big of a deal. I know people are losing their minds in Canada, though, about the elbows up stuff.
We'll also say that the context is very different this time. There has never been any sympathy on the part of Quebec sovereigntists for becoming parts of the U.S., and there has never been interest on the part of an administration in the U.S. for annexing part of Canada. So we're somewhere else completely.
But look, Trump is trolling Canada. Do you know how you can tell this is true? The Canadian stock market. Since Carney was elected, the Canadian stock market has actually done fantastic. That's not because people think Canada is about to turn into the 51st state. That would be a whole bunch of turmoil. Kevin O'Leary actually makes a fantastic point here.
Been a very short period of time. Let's go back to the pre-inauguration days, the dinners that Trump was having in Mar-a-Lago. Back then, it was Trudeau, the idiot king, along with a woman named Christina Freeland. But Liz, I'm a numbers guy, and so are you, numbers woman. You look at the data. So let's look at the data in the last 11 months since Carney came in and this tiff started with Trump. Here's the data. The entire index of Canada, the stock market itself, went up 34% after 10 years of economic coma with the idiot king. Just in the last 11 months, while this tiff was going on with Trump and with Carney, the Canadian dollar rose an additional 5.4%. Now, the S&P, I invest in both, is only up 14%.
This upcoming part from Kevin O'Leary is the main point.
4%. Now, the S&P, I invest in both, is only up 14%. You've made 40% going long for one reason. You've made 40% in Canada because the whole world believes it's a giant negotiation. Everybody knows Trump is a transactional person. He likes personal relationships to get deals done.
Look, that is such a great point. I actually wish I thought of that myself. If the 51st state thing was real, Canada's stock market would not be performing the best it has in quite some time. Look at this chart, 10-year Canada stock market index. Under Trudeau, the returns were awful. This drove so much investment into America. If Canada was actually about to become the 51st state, this would not be happening. It wouldn't have, like, again, maybe some of this was just kind of percolating under the surface. I mean, I hope, I don't know, but this would not be happening. The market would be maybe sideways, probably down if the investors actually thought that the 51st state thing was real. So can we stop with the fake hysteria? It's obviously used to get people in Canada to vote Liberal and support Carney. And now it's going to be used to get people to not vote Alberta independence. Okay, and we'll get back to this video for a little bit more from CTV.
At the First Minister's Conference in Ottawa, Alberta Premier Daniel Smith says the decision for a group to meet with U.S. officials is a reflection of their discontent with Ottawa.
I'm not going to demonize or marginalize a million of my fellow citizens when they've got legitimate grievances.
A lot of Liberals in Canada did not like that statement.
Prime Minister Mark Carney says he's never discussed Alberta independence with U.S. President Donald Trump.
We expect the U.S. administration to respect Canadian sovereignty.
The U.S. State Department said it regularly meets with civil society types and no commitments were made. A similar response from the White House, which tells CTV News no support or commitments were conveyed. Meanwhile, First Nations leaders gathered in Edmonton Thursday to stand against Alberta's separatism or becoming the 51st state.
I just did an Alberta independence video earlier today, focused more on First Nations. You can check that out if you want. But to finish this video, we're going to head to a hilarious post on X from Stephen Guilbeault, probably one of the worst politicians of my life. I mean, he might be number one if it wasn't for Trudeau. And okay, heading over to X, Stephen Guilbeault. Imagine 1 second that the QC separatist movement reached out to France to help with QC separatism. People in English Canada would be rightly outraged. This is no different. David Eby is right. And he's mentioning, of course, the treason comments from David Eby, quoting that. And then he got community noted in a very funny way. In 1995, the Quebec separatist movement did just that. And then it links to a Washington Post article. I mean, that's pure comedy. That's a great way to finish this video. Thanks very much today for watching. Like and subscribe. Have a great day.